because it was a communication spot. So
Right.
I'm like, as long as my communication tight, my production tight, we good. So we go through it. They was like, oh, thank you. You know, it ain't feel like I kind of won them over.
Right.
I was like, dang, I was defeated, bro. I called my mom, like, man, I need to find an internship right now. She's like, what happened with the twins? I was like, that's chalk, bro. That's done. I was like, I don't think I got it. So, like,
You want out there, no, man.
Man,
Hire
bro,
me, man.
whole-
You give me nothing, man.
whole drive to Chicago, I'm just weak, right? So they call me 2 days later. They like, they want to set up a second interview with you, and I'm like, oh, made sure I had my resume that time,
right? Yeah.
Then they tell me when I brought it that time, they was like, oh, you don't need it. And I was like, all right, that was my last bit of ink in my printer, but it's all good, you know what I'm saying? So long story short, I got the call and they was like, yo, we want to hire you for the season to be our intern. First of all, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into.
Right.
Like that is like, it was a tough job, but it prepared me for everything. And like, so they had asked me in the second interview, I was like, so what's your goal? What's your main goal? And since I was in 10th grade, I've always wanted to like be an in-game host of a sports team.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be football or basketball because that's all I knew. But I was like, I just want to be an in-game host of a sports team, you know? And they was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, I do stand-up. Plan on taking that to the next level. Oh, cool. And he's like, what college did you go to? He was like, I see you went to Northwestern. Do you know so-and-so?
Right.
That was my advisor.
Oh, okay.
And the dude, and I was like, oh, yeah. No, yeah. I'm like, that's my dog.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'm gonna call him to see. So he called him, and like my advisor, like me and my advisor were close. Like
That's like
loved
really,
me.
it was really like you. Okay, yeah.
So that's when I learned it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It's a fact.
Cause he was like, yeah, I went to college with him back in the day. We both did radio, and I'm like. So then I'm starting to think, I'm like, oh, yeah, sir.
Right.
And so I got the job, and then, like, bro, just worked my butt off. And then they hit me up. So this was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just random email. I was out with my pops. And
The twins?
Yeah.
Okay.
So random email from the twins like, hey, we looking to spice things up this season. We wondering if it's cool with your schedule. Now, you know, like at the time I wasn't as big, but people thought I was huge because you know Instagram videos, everything doing well.
Nah, man, you doing your thing, man.
Yeah, so
you
like,
be humble, but you doing your thing, man.
but
For
saying,
real.
back then I was doing all right.
Okay, it's like it wasn't okay. That's real. That's real.
But
That's
like
real.
I was busy enough that people thought like, yo, you know, at
Right.
the time I had just did Tyler Perry, and like people was like, yo, and I'm like, first of all, I didn't get paid that much, so they was like, if it's not too busy with your schedule, you know, get back to me, let me know if you want to be an in-game host. Boy, I replied to that email in 30 seconds. As soon as it hit my phone, I swiped over. It was like, yes, I would love to. But yeah, so like, man, God opened so many random doors, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the youngest like sports host
I was
in
gonna
all
ask
sports.
you that next.
Yeah,
I was gonna say like next because I never. First off, I never seen no black man doing that.
yeah,
I was thinking like every time I see him, it's an old white dude doing it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and that's why I was like, I really was about to do some Google search. Like, man, who's the youngest?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We gonna
And
figure
like,
this shit out.
like if you look in the NBA, like there's black in-game hosts in the NBA too.
Uh-huh.
Like, and like I didn't even know these things going into it because I'm like, how do you even get into that stuff? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So my thought was comedy, right? If I build my same thing with acting. Acting's always been my main passion, but I'm like, comedy is the shortcut through the schools and all that because I'm like, if you already have a brand, if you already got a support group that follow you, that's leverage on a film. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay.
Literally.
Like I got the same amount of acting skills as him, but I also got a lot more followers than him. So those followers is viewers, and so every time I go into anything, that's my leverage. Like, yo. But then if I run into somebody who got more followers than me, then I'm just like, oh,
You gotta know the game, though. Exactly. No, like, but
So-
that's right though. That's like real life thinking, strategic because you gotta know the game and just be honest with yourself. A lot of
Yeah.
people they won't run across that part. They'll run across the dude with more and still be like, well, I'm still. And I'm like, bro, you can't look at it like that. It's like because look, who got the more? Who's watching it more?
Exactly.
They watching him.
Exactly.
That's because you got to work more. You know what I mean?
And putting
the
literally
work.
putting the work in. So it's like I just like street knowledge is the same thing as business. It's just one is illegal and one's not. You know what I'm saying? So I took the street knowledge that I knew and I just flipped it over. Like, okay, hustling my talents is the same thing as hustling weed on the street or something. It's like it's the same. It's the same marketing process. Like I'm going to sell the mess out of myself because at the end of the day, I gotta eat.
Facts.
And so that's how I ultimately was like, okay, when I went into doing this full time. So in October it'll mark 4 years of me doing like entertainment on my own, like full time, nothing else, no other jobs. And so I had to make that decision, and it really was a lot of prayer too. Just like, all right, if this really what I want to do, I can't have no training wheels. Because I'm like, it's different when you doing comedy, but you got a job on the side. Because you just like, I still got this money over here. Like, if I don't get a show, oh well. Rather than
got that safety net.
Exactly.
Without that safety net, you force.
And a lot of people, reason why they not successful is because they scared of getting rid of that safety net. And it's like, if you want to be successful, you got to take that safety net off, because that it's a different type of hunger. It's the same type of hunger that people have on the street. If you don't know when your next meal coming, you moving, you making it shake, you making it work. So for me, I was like, I don't know when my next meal gonna come. I don't know when my next bill's gonna become. God, if this really what I'm supposed to do, let's work.
Right.
And like, I send out probably tens of thousands of emails every year just to get maybe 100 shows.
See, so you still doing. It's not even like a oh yeah, you got to a certain point, you slowed up the work got hard. He said, I'm still sitting up.
Because when things start popping off, like it was to the point where I didn't even have to send emails no more. Like I was getting consistent work. Then COVID hit. So now
COVID fucked up everything.
And so now it was back to square one, because everybody's a little nervous. So now not only do you have to sell yourself, but you have to sell the safety of everybody that's trying to be in the show. Right. Or you got to sell the safety of everybody who's trying to participate, or like say like, okay, now that things are loosening it up, how can I make you more comfortable in saying, let's get this comedy show cracking? Right. And so that's another thing that you got to maneuver and you learn on the fly, because it's like, you thought, for me, 2019, I did 240 something shows, 2 TV shows, and I did a pilot film. Didn't make it, but I still got paid.
Who was the pilot film with?
So it was with a production company. I don't even know. It was like in LA. It was like a short, low budget joint. But,
they was just trying to get.
But yeah, they was trying to get something.
Just get something up and jump in real
so
quick.
they wanted to do it streaming, but then like it fell through. But like we still all got paid for it, because we did our thing. So like for me, it's like it was another experience for me, like because I love film. That's what I do in my free time. I'm watching films. I'm studying actors.
That's one thing me and you got in common too. Yeah. Also, it's funny. I remember when I first met you, we met at the photo shoot type shit. Yeah. And I remember like my homegirl, she was the homegirl. You know what I mean? She said like, y'all, you know what I mean? Y'all kind of acting like not like acting like, but like she like knew like. We will get along. We got some similarities type shit. So I was like, we was roasting. They was joking the whole time we was in there. So I'm like, that's a fact. That's why I like when I started like looking at everything you was doing. I'm like, damn, he does film too. He does all that.
Yeah, bro.
The announcer shit, like the announcer and the acting thing threw me off. I'm like, damn, he's man. Like you said, you a master of everything. Like you know what I mean. You like, what'd you say? Say that analogy. You know, always fuck up analogies.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades and a
master of none.
Master of none. Yeah, I like that.
No, so I think it's super dope that you even rope everything together. Yeah. Like you don't let anything just go out to waste. Like you don't ever let like, oh, this is my comedy side, I'm gonna leave that to there and keep that separated from my film side. Right. You use the comedy thing to leverage yourself in the film. That's like an important key.
I look at people like Kevin Hart. Like he's so big that he's like in this box. Like anything outside of that box, people like, bro, what is you doing?
Right.
Like he tried to do a serious film, they like,
that shit was good too. He made.
Yeah, and like, and so and that's the thing. Like with me, I'm like, if I start early, if I start doing everything early, I can't be put in no box. Like if you think about it, I'm like, I want to be a Jamie Foxx. Mm-hmm. Jamie Foxx
do whatever the hell he want.
Everything. He got everything. Like he started out in comedy though. Like a lot of people didn't know he started out in comedy.
Color, man. Shout out to the Waynes.
Yeah, like literally changed. He literally changed his name. Like his real name is not even Jamie Foxx. He changed his name to Jamie Foxx because they was looking for a female to like do the open mic, and he been trying for weeks to get on the open mic. So he changed his name to Jamie Foxx. He got on stage and they found out he was a man, but he was already on stage. Killed it. Kept coming back. Got Living Color. Did Living Color. Then he started doing Ray and all those other movies, and people were like, okay, like you don't see Jamie Foxx just doing comedy movies, and it's like he does a serious movie. There's comedy elements in there. You can argue Jamie Foxx is like one of the top, you know what I mean, top 5 black actors of all time. You can put him in that argument for sure. I think he's one of the greatest overall entertainers in general. Like if you think about it, he can act. He does comedy. He can sing. Like what?
Even bro, it's R&B album. If you look at R&B albums, if I'm making well, I ain't gonna say 100. We only got that many. I'm making a 50. Yo, it's on there. Unpredictable, gotta make it. You know what I'm saying? Like that joint.
Blame it on that's my hit.
Yo, he get bored and just come back and do some shit, man. And like I
is.
used to, like even like when you look at like you said his acting, like it's different roles every time. He even found a way. Remember you seen Horrible Bosses?
Yeah.
How he's even being serious, but he's still
Jones.
being, like, bro, Jamie Foxx is literally like I don't know. I told people once and they ain't agree with me. I say he better than Will Smith.
I agree. See, but
I said he better than Will.
See,
it's
but
subjective.
I'm glad
I get it. It's subjective, but I was like, man, you look at it. If we looking at comedy like it's like a sport, and we like, all right, these are stats and these are everything, bro. How is Jamie Foxx not the most all around?
Yo, and the thing about Jamie Foxx, people don't realize, even in the music sector of things, like he helped out Ed Sheeran when Ed Sheeran was like becoming an artist. Yeah. And now Ed Sheeran is one of the biggest artists. Sure, but that's not even in hip hop, so people really didn't like focus on that.
But it's so fucked up. People in hip hop know who the fuck Ed Sheeran is.
Yeah. Because when it comes down to music,
you know what I'm saying?
When it comes down to music though, touring. That's how you make your money. And Ed Sheeran, he knows how to fucking tour. Like that's the thing.
And that's like I look at all those elements and I'm like, that's what I gotta do. I'm like, if I'm everybody doing comedy, so I'm like, what else? Okay, cool, comedy. What else can you bring?
Tuxedos,
man. You feel me? Like it's like okay, everybody doing comedy, but is they doing comedy and music though? All right, I'm gonna do an album. You know what I'm saying? So those are the things that I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, okay, how can I do more? Okay, I'm gonna do a comedy album. I grew up on Weird Al Yankovic, and then I seen like Emmanuel Hudson and them doing it, and I'm like, because I've always had funny songs in my head, but I've never actually had like I never actually knew how to put something out, bro. And like with the last project that I put out, I don't even realize whoever make music. Shout out to y'all because that junk is I dang near retired after this last.
People that make good music,
people that make good music, bro. Because it's a lot of time. Like I went like my last project, I like went out to LA with some people and like did it out there and like just seeing how they do it. Because I'm like I want to make something funny, but I want to make something that you gonna listen to forever. Right. So it's like something that's a bop. But it's like this ain't talking about getting left on red from a female, or he talking about getting a whooping in the grocery store.
Shit. Yo, my bad.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. So like my last album, I don't know if y'all heard it, but it was called Simping Season, and so like all those elements is in that album, like real life stuff flipped in a funny way, but to a like a dope beat.
I'm about to listen.
So if y'all ain't heard it, Simping Season,
we gonna put it on. Yeah, we gonna put all this shit up.
It came out in January. So, but yeah,
and that's crazy because one of my next questions, like you kind of already answered like two of them. I was gonna ask you like who was one of your biggest, you know what I mean? It's like a person you looked up to and inspirations and shit. And it's like boom, you already just decide, describe Jamie Foxx without even, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Bernie, Jamie, and Kevin were my biggest.
R.P. Bernie's like man, different type of legendary.
Bernie's the Bernie Mac show was different for me, bro, because it's like that was my whole family. And
that
like
show would be so perfect today still.
Man, it's eternal, bro. Like it's on Hulu. We watch that all the time. My dad went to high school with him, so they was like, like they was like he was saying, my dad was like, man, that was funnier than him. Like you like Bernie, it's always that one.
I kid you not. Since you brought that up, I went to high school, man. Everybody know this dude in St. Paul. You probably know him if you don't. Steve Stroggins, shout out to Steve, man. You know what I mean? He's a coach. He's a high school basketball coach. Yeah. He used to play for the Spurs in the ABA. We found that out. We used to ask him. I'll never forget. I asked him. I was like freshman. I was like, hey man, you play in the NBA? He was like, no, I played in the ABA. I was like, oh, what teams you on? He's like, I was on the Spurs. I was like, and at that time, that's when 2K, you know what I'm saying? The legends, they start putting the legends on the game. I'm like, oh, that's where the Iceman nigga.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah. So you was playing with Iceman. This nigga looked at me and said, I taught that motherfucker how to roll, and walked off. I can't make this up. I got like two homies that was right there when it happened. I swear to God.
But that's the thing, like, bro, like old black men and old black women are the funniest people in the world. Like, bro, who says that? I thought about a roll and then just walk away.
Did you know? I asked who was better.
Skip the question. Like,
how to roll.
And then he left you to marinate on it for a second. Like, what?
I had to sit there like, yeah, did he roll?
Some people will argue with you for days. Like, no, you can't look it up.
Man,
I was right there. I call them Cassidy's. Those are Cassidy's of the world. Man. I used to love we love the old cat. We love. I can say the old cats. We love Cassidy.